guys, it's me, Crystal. So for some reason this month, I put 2 book tags on my list of videos to film for this month. So I originally had another book tag that I was going to do, but I don't want to do that one. So I saw this one a couple weeks ago, and I thought that this sounded like it was a lot of fun, and it's more in line with what I want to talk about right now. So yeah, I decided to do this one instead, and this is the Intimidating TBR book tag, or the most intimidating books on my TBR tag. So per usual, I will link the video I watched below along with the prompts in case you want to answer them, and there are 9 total, so let's just get started. And the first one is, what book have you been unable to finish? And so for that one, I picked Fallen by Lauren Kate, and this is a YA paranormal book with, I guess, fallen angels as the paranormal creature. I picked up this book several years ago, and I put it down because I remember there's a couple things going on. One, I remember being bored for some reason, and I was flipping through this and like reading around the place I left off, which is page 52-53. And I couldn't find anything wrong with it. Like, it wasn't boring. The writing wasn't bothering me. And so I'm not sure why I was bored while I was reading this. I do remember why I was annoyed, though. And that's because the main character has, like, a secret. And it's, like, something happened at her last school. And I just wasn't in the mood for her to, like, skirt around what happened for however many pages it took for that to be revealed. Now, luckily, or maybe unluckily, because the movie is not good, I have watched the movie. And so I do know what that secret is. And so after that, I was like, okay, maybe now I can read the book because I won't be annoyed, by this secret. Anyway, I still really want to read this book because I do think that I will like it if I can ever talk myself into picking it back up and finishing it. And at this point, I'm going to have to start over because I read these 50 pages quite a while ago. So I guess I'm not intimidated by that book, but I haven't yet been able to talk myself into picking it back up. Okay, so the second question has like 7 like subsections to this question, and so each question starts the same way and then like it ends in a different way anyway. Okay, so question 2 is, what book have you yet to read because you just haven't had the time? So there is not a book I don't have time to read. Like, I have time, but there are probably a couple books that I don't want to take the time to read. And one of those books is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. Now, I did not buy this book. Illumicrate was selling off like some of their like past crates that they had extra of, because they always order extras just in case something gets lost or damaged or whatever, so that they can easily replace it. And so they had some left over from November, and I wanted that book anyway, and so I was like, why not get the fancy signed copy of that book? And so I picked up that crate, and I should have unboxed it on camera because you should have saw my face when I saw this book was in there. I do not want to read this book. Now, I have heard nothing but glorious, wonderful, amazing things about this book, which is probably one of the reasons I don't want to read it, because if there's ever a book that everybody loves, I'm like, I probably won't like it because that's just the kind of person I am. Also, I really don't like books that have racism in them, and I thought I heard somebody say that she's like trying to get into like this group on this college campus of people who are descendants of King Arthur, and it's a bunch of white guys, and they don't want her in their group because she's a black girl, and I just don't like books with racism in them. So I'm hoping that it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be in my head. But I actually was going to just unhaul this book like as soon as I saw it, but I was like, since I'm not gonna buy the book on its own and it was already in that crate, I'm like, I should give it a chance. So I'm going to at least, try to read this book and give it a chance, since everybody says it's so amazing, but I really don't want to take the time to read this book. But I guess I am, because I decided to keep it and put it in the TBR jar and give it a try. Okay, question 3 is, what book have you yet to read because it's a sequel? So for that book, I picked Unhinged by A.G. Howard. And I like Splintered by A.G. Howard, and this is book 2 of 3, 4 if you can count the book of like short stories that's like happily ever after. I guess it's happily after. I don't know. It's short stories that happen after the trilogy concludes. And I liked Splintered. Like, I liked the story a lot, but I had a hard time like reading the book because the writing was like super, super dense, and it was like, it was really exhausting. And so I read book one a few years ago now, and I haven't been able to talk myself into reading book two because I'm scared that the writing is also going to be dense, and I'm just really not in the mood for that. I really hate that. And I gave this book 4 stars anyway. Not this book, but one. Because that's how much I love the story. Normally when a book does that, it doesn't get more than 3 stars. It might even get 2 stars. I probably will DNF it. So I haven't been able to talk myself into reading this book yet. But hopefully, with the new way I'm structuring my TBRs, I will hopefully get through some of these books in a series, maybe a little bit more often than I will on my own, if I like, if the book like gets picked for me or whatever. Anyway. Okay, so question 4 is, what is a book you have yet to read because it's brand new? So I don't have a brand new book that I'm intimidated to read, but I did pick this book that I bought last year. I'm definitely scared to read this book. But anyway, it's The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood. I want this book because of the cover. The cover is just stunning, and I'm just like, I want this book so bad. But I'm super scared to read it. Like, it's high fantasy, and let me show you this because so there's a pronunciation guide. And you might be thinking, Krystal, what is wrong with a pronunciation guide? You guys, I have never finished a book that has a pronunciation guide in it. It said maybe once. Maybe once. And I didn't know that the pronunciation guide was in the book until I finished the book, and it was at the very end. And I was like, that actually probably would have been helpful. Also, I wanted to quit that book the entire time I was reading it. So whenever I see a pronunciation guide in the book, I'm like, I'm either going to have a horrible time or I'm going to DNF it. And since I'm determined not to have a horrible time anymore, it's almost a guaranteed DNF. Okay. But hopefully this would just be amazing. And I don't need the pronunciation guide. I'm sure I don't. I just don't like it. I don't know why, okay? I don't know why. There's something about a pronunciation guide in a book that makes me feel like this book is going to be hard to read. And so I'm just really scared to read this book because look at this tagline, Priestess, Assassin, Traitor. It just really sounds like it's really fun, and I'm so scared to read it. So scared. But I bought it anyway because this cover is everything. Okay, question 5. What book have you yet to read because you read a book by the same author and didn't enjoy it? So for this one, I picked Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and I did like Uprooted. I did. It was one of those 3 stars that it was like, I liked this, but here's a laundry list of stuff I did not like. And one of those things was the writing. And I have another book by Naomi Novik, but I've heard that the writing in A Deadly Education is very, very different from the writing in Uprooted. But I heard that the writing in Spinning Silver is very similar to the writing in Uprooted. And I hated the writing in Uprooted. Speaking of tedious writing styles, I don't want to read this book now after reading Uprooted. I don't think I bought them at the same time, but I bought them in the same year. I just don't want to read it. I just don't want to read it now because I'm afraid I'm not going to like it. Also, this book has multiple point of views, and like, you know how like most books with multiple point of views, like when you get to, I'm trying to find the beginning of a chapter. Anyway, when you get to a chapter, it says like the character's name. This doesn't do that. And so you start reading it and you have no idea whose head you're in until somebody says the character's name, or I guess you remember where you are, you recognize where you are, and you're like, okay, I've been here before, this is so-and-so's point of view. I really don't like that at all. And so between that and the fact that I didn't like the writing style in Uprooted, I really don't want to read this anymore, but I don't want to not read it, you know? Question 6 is, what is a book you have yet to read because you're just not in the mood for it? You can't tell, or maybe you can tell. Anyway, if you've read this book, you know what it is. It's Eclipse by Stephanie Meyer. I did finally take my bookmark out because I'm like, I'm gonna have to start over because I don't know what I read. I want to read this book, okay? I just have not been in the mood. For one, it's kind of long, and after reading Twilight and New Moon, to me, Stephenie Meyer's Twilight series, I'm not gonna put words, I'm not gonna speak for the other books, but there's a lot of nothing that happens in these books, and I didn't mind it too much in Twilight because it was just really funny to me. But in New Moon, like, I liked New Moon, surprisingly. But there's nothing happening, and I was not motivated to pick up the book because there was nothing happening for like pages and pages and pages, like almost the entire book, nothing was happening. And I knew what happened because I've seen all the movies, but I don't remember what happened in the third movie. And so I don't have anything to help me get through this book. I think I kind of remember that there's some vampire battle or something. I don't know. But I do still want to read this. I want to read all of these books. For some reason. Probably gonna regret reading Breaking Dawn, but anyway. Okay, question 7 is, what is a book you have yet to read because it's humongous? So I've been wanting to reread book 2 in this series, which is Lasher, but I've recently decided that I really need to reread book 1 because I don't even remember if I read Lasher. Like, I feel like I read it, but I could have quit because that book was really disturbing. Of course, this book was also really disturbing, but I loved this. But anyway, instead of, you can't tell how big this book is because this is a mass market paperback size. But a couple things. Do you see how tiny this print is? Look at this. This is horrible. It's horrible. Also, this book is 1,000 pages, okay? It's 1,038 pages. So anyway, I decided to pick up the audiobook and listen to the audiobook. And I found out the audiobook is 50 hours. But at the speed I'm currently listening to audiobooks on, it would cut it down to 34 hours. And I'm still like, I have like a limit of how long audiobooks can be before I'm like super tired. And I think that's about 15 hours. So I don't know if this is a good idea, but I've been not rereading, but I was determined not to reread this book because it is so long and thick and long. But I just feel like it's best if I'm determined to finish this series or reread book 2, assuming I read it. Who knows? We'll see when I get to it. I feel like it's in my best interest as far as not being confused or lost and like enjoying myself if I can get through this story first, and then finish the series. But yeah, I was not going to do this. I only recently decided to do this again by trying to listen to the audiobook. Probably should listen to a sample first. I did not. So we'll see how it goes. So question 8 is, what is a book you've yet to read because it was a cover buy that turned out to have poor reviews? So if you know anything about me, you know I do not care if a book has bad reviews. In fact, it's almost a ringing endorsement unless there's only like 10 reviews and they're all bad, then that's not a ringing endorsement. But anyway, I picked Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. Maniscalco. This cover is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, look at it. Look at it. Look at it. I mean, I know there's a skull because doesn't like skulls, but there's also a snake and flowers. And Krystal loves snakes on books and flowers and purple. So, love this cover. It's so gorgeous and creepy. But anyway, I haven't read any reviews for this book, so I don't actually know if the reviews are bad, but I have watched some video reviews, and some of them have been really, really good. They're like, they said exactly what I was expecting based on this cover and the blurb for this book, which is that it's going to be like super exciting and and super fun, and you know, don't take it too seriously, whatever. But there's been a couple of people who have said things about this book that are things that I think might bother me, you know, like missing emotional beats, for example. I mean, I don't really consider it a spoiler because it's part of the blurb. But anyway, something happens to the main character, to her sister, and people have said that she didn't really seem to like care. I don't know, there's just a couple of little things that people have said to him, like, I don't know. And then there's like, part of the plot point for this book is that in order to get revenge, she summons a demon prince from hell, which is why I picked this book up. And people say that the whole time, the demon prince from hell keeps saying, I'm so dangerous, you shouldn't trust me. But then like, he doesn't do anything dangerous. And I don't like that in books. I don't like when people are, when the author is telling me that somebody is dangerous, but they don't actually do anything dangerous. So then I'm like, am I gonna hate this book? I don't know, we'll see. I'm still planning on reading it though. Okay, and the last question, question 9, is what is the most intimidating book in your TBR pile? So there was a couple of books I could have picked for this. There are some long books I could have picked. There's a couple of books that I've already talked about that I could have picked for this. But instead, I decided to go with The Host by Stephenie Meyer. Speaking of Stephenie Meyer, when this book first came out, I was trying to read a sample of it online, and they were like missing pages. They kept like skipping pages, and so the sample didn't make any sense. And on one hand, I was like, well, shouldn't it make sense anyway? But on the other hand, I was like, why are you skipping pages in the sample? Like, I don't know, it happens sometimes though. But this book, I don't think it's as long as it looks. I think it's like 600 pages long. Yeah, it's just a little over 600 pages long. But the font is not small. It's like regular. And I did watch the movie, and I did like the movie. The movie wasn't that good, but I kind of like bad movies sometimes. I think they're charming. And so since the book is just about always better than the movie, I figure, oh my gosh, this cover, look at this. I love that. This is probably bothering somebody touching a fake eyeball anyway. I'm scared to read this for some reason. I think I'm afraid that I'm not going to like it. And also, after reading Twilight and just all the rambling that's in Twilight, I'm not sure I trust Stephenie Meyer. I did like Twilight for some reason. I feel like this is something that I would like, but I'm just like, I'm really scared to read it. I'm afraid it's going to be confusing and dense and rambly and boring. So part of the new way I'm structuring my TBR, I'm not changing a lot. I just kind of like redid my TBR jars, and then like I have like a little game that I'm gonna play that should hopefully be really fun. I'll talk about that next week. But this book is in the intimidating book pile. So we'll see when I get to it. But I'm really scared to read this book. Because I want to like it. Because I really like the concept of this book. It's just, yeah, I don't 100% trust Stephenie. And I'm, you know, afraid that it's going to be confusing and boring and long and tedious. Okay, so that's all for this video. And let me know, have you read any of these books? Are you intimidated by any of these books? What books are you intimidated by? Am I a pansy? Do you think I'm a pansy? And you're like, you're intimidated by those books, Krystal? Wow, that's nothing. You know, I have Crime and Punishment on my TBR. Good for you. I don't know anything about Crime and Punishment. It was just the first thing that came to mind. So I hope May has been going good for you guys. It's not really going good for me, but I did have a really good birthday though. I had a great birthday. My birthday was a couple weeks ago, in case you didn't know. But yeah, that was a really good day. But this month in general has not been good. It's just been really stressful. It's kind of like if you're already carrying a 50-pound boulder up the side of a mountain, and then like another 10-pound boulder like rolls off the mountain on top of your boulder. And on one hand, it's like it's just 10 more pounds, but it's like, one, you have the force of the 10 pounds falling on your boulder. So initially it's going to feel heavier than that. And then secondly, you're now carrying 60 pounds up the mountain. And at some point, it's just too much. But I'm happy right now. So that's why we're filming a video today. And also, I'm really excited to talk about my TBR game. It's not revolutionary, okay? I got the idea from someone else. And so I will talk about that next week. I will link the video whose idea I got it from. It's not a channel that I'm subscribed to. It's the only video on that channel that I have watched. I don't even know if the idea originated with that person. And there was also another video that I'm going to link next week. I don't know why I'm talking about it now. I'm just super excited. There's another TBR game video that I'm going to link in the description box next week also, because it was that game that inspired me to like change things up with my TBR, because I just felt like I felt like I wasn't making a lot of progress, and that I wasn't getting a wide enough scope and like a large enough variety. And I also wanted a little bit more flexibility on some of the prompts to like pick the book myself if I wanted, instead of everything being random. It is still mostly going to be random, because I just think that that's working better for me overall. But anyway, I'm just excited, you know, to talk about the game that I'll be playing and how I restructured my TBR jars. And yeah, I think it's going to work a lot better for me and be fun. And yeah, hopefully result in some more variety. And yeah, so I will see you guys next week in that video. And yeah, so I hope you have a good week this week and a good rest of the month. And I will see you guys on Memorial Day. And yeah, bye.